Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where we are going to be looking at pivoting. So we gain an initial foothold on a system or on a host in a network, and now what do we do? So that is what we are going to be looking at in this video. So generally the idea is, after compromising your first target, you now see if you can move from that target to other targets in the network, or you try and see if the host that you compromise does have access to other networks that you initially did not have access to. So that's what we're going to be looking at in this video. So in this video, I do have a sketch here of what we're going to be doing. So we do have a scenario here where we have a host here that is a .25 host that is accessible, like it is publicly accessible, so we can access it via the internet. And we do have other hosts in the same network. However, we do not have access to those these other hosts here because they are protected by a firewall. So we can only access these resources we have right here through this host here, and this is how production workloads are generally configured. So because we have some critical workloads, we may not want to expose them to the internet because then they become like very vulnerable to attackers. So what we would do is, we are going to maybe put them in a separate network, or maybe protect them like it is in the case here. So we protect them with a firewall, and then we set up a jump box or something like a Bastion host from which we can then connect to and then access resources we have on the firewall protected network. So so in this scenario we see here, so here we are. So here is the attacker here. So from here we are going to start by compromising this target that we do have access to, and then from there we're now going to see how we can pivot from this host onto another host that is firewall protected. Of course, you see here denoted by this red line, if we try to access a host directly from the internet, it doesn't work because we have a firewall that is blocking us here. So what we will do is, we'll compromise the host that we do have access to via the public internet. We'll compromise that, and then from there we'll see how we can leverage that access and compromise another target. And in this case, we're going to be compromising this target here. So I'm going to open my terminal here, just going to make that bigger, and I'm going to zoom in. Is that good? Yep, I think that should be good. Okay, so I'm just going to cut a file here that has information about our target. So here is target 1, and we do have the IP address we saw in the sketch, and here is target 2. We have the second IP address that we saw in the sketch. So I'm just going to confirm we do not have access to this target here by doing so if I just do a simple ping to .206, we can see we do not get a reply. So if I try doing that on the other one, that is 10.00.25, we do see we get a reply. So this confirms that we do have access to this target here, but we do not have access to this one. So our goal here is to compromise this target that we do have access to and see how we can pivot from this host to this one. Okay, so I'm just going to clear out everything we have on the screen, and I'm going to start by performing an nmap scan on a target that we do have access to. So I'm just going to do nmap, and I'm going to do a service version detection. That's the only thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to do that on all the 1000 most used TCP ports, and then I'm just going to specify the IP address here, and I hit enter. So we'll just give it a couple of seconds. It's going to come up with the result of the services that are running on this target. So we have our result here, and we can see we have a lot of open ports here and a lot of services running. So to compromise this target, we're going to use this TCP port here that is running an FTP service that is called Pro FTPD. So if we do search exploit, and we search for Pro FTPD, we would see that we have a result here. And if we look at the result, we should have a result. So you see here we have results that can be exploited using the Metasploit framework. So I'm just going to cancel, I'm just going to clear the screen, and I'm going to start our Metasploit console. I'm going to do service, and I'm going to go to PostgreSQL start, and then at the same time I'm going to start the MSF console. I'm going to bump in my password. So we're just going to give a couple of seconds for Metasploit to load. Okay, so Metasploit has loaded. So once Metasploit, the next thing we are going to do is just search that service that we found. So remember, it was Pro FTPD, so I'm going to do search Pro FTPD and see what we have. So we have a lot of we have a couple of results here. The exploit module we're going to use to exploit this target is this module here. So I'm going to do use, and the ID for this module is number 15. So I'm just going to copy this here, and I'm going to paste this. So use this module, and then I'm going to clear my screen and do show options. And what we have to do here, we're going to set the R host, that is the target host that we are trying to exploit. So I'm going to do set R host to the IP address of that target. The next thing we are going to do, just hit run and see if we have an error. So we have an error here that says exploit failure due to failure copying PHP payload to website path. Okay, so it looks like what the module does, it sends a payload onto the target using like on port 80. So there's probably something running on port 80. So it sends that payload onto that, and then runs the payload, so we can then receive a reverse shell. Okay, so I'm just going to scan that target again to see what is running on port 80. So I'm just going to do db nmap, and I'm going to do service version, and I'm going to do that on, I'm just going to do it on port 80, and we're going to do that on 10.0.0.0.25 here. Okay, let's see what we get here. Okay, we can see that we do have Apache server running on that target. Okay, so that sounds good. However, it did not succeed to upload that payload onto the Apache server. Okay, let's look at what we have here. I'm just going to clear my screen again and do show options, and we do have a site path here, and it says absolute writable website path. So it looks like this is a path where it's trying to write the payload onto our target. So so this path here is generally where we have like websites on a Linux instance. So what we are gonna, so like generally when you install Apache, we do have like a default website running somewhere. So I'm just going to ask, we're going to say the default path of the website path after installing Apache server on Linux. Okay, so now we can see that is the same thing that we saw, var www, but we do have an HTML on there. So we're just going to add that. So I'm going to do set site path, and I'm going to do var www html. Okay, I'm going to do show options again. Okay, so we have that set. We have our target here. We have the remote port here, and we have the FTP port that we are targeting here. Okay, I'm going to hit run. Okay, so this time it says sending payload. It did send the payload, and now it says executing payload. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, we have a green light here, so it says the payload has been executed properly, and now it is deleting the payload to cover our traces, and we now have a command shell open for us. Okay, so I'm just going to do sessions, and you can see here we have session number 1 running, and if I do sessions and I do 1, you would see that we do have a session. If I do ls, you see we do have something. So I can just spin up a bash shell. So I'm going to do bin bash, I'm going to do I, and as you can see we now have a bash shell here. We can now enumerate the target. For example, we could do ifconfig config. So we do have the network interfaces here. We can see the IP address of our target. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to set this to the background, and so we have successfully, so right now we do have a foothold on this target here. Okay, so the idea now is to see if we can move from this target to this target. So the first thing, we're just trying to see if this target does have access to this by just trying to like do the same ping request, but this time from this target. So I'm going to do I'm just going to go back to that session 1, and then I'm going to do ping the 10.0.0.206. As you can see, we do have a reply this time. So if we try to do the same thing, just to demonstrate again, so if we do ping 1.0.0.0.206, we do not have any reply right here. Okay, so because we are doing it on just gonna bring back here. So because we are doing this from a target that we compromised, we do it does work. Okay, so I'm just going to clear my screen again. Going to run that again just to get the session one more time. Okay, so I'm going to do sessions again. So we now have we have the same session here. So for some reason the previous session was closed, so I'm just going to do that again. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to upgrade this session into a Meterpreter session, and we do that simply by doing sessions, and then I'm going to specify that I want to upgrade this session, and the session ID is session number 2. I'm going to do that, and we should get that done in a couple of seconds. Okay, so that worked, and if I do sessions, you would see that we do have a Meterpreter session here. So we're going to use this one that has like some more information here. So I'm going to do sessions, and I'm going to specify the ID, session number 4, and now we are on our Meterpreter session. So we can do things like system. Oops, so I'm just going to do sysinfo. We can now see we are on a Linux target, and yeah, okay. So from here, the next thing we are going to do, because our target, our goal is to pivot from this system to the other system. What we're going to do, we're going to try to run an nmap or a port scan on the firewall protected target, leveraging the access we have on this target here. So I'm going to do that. So to do that, we have to add a route. So we're going to add a route on Meterpreter, and everything we do on our Metasploit console is going to use that route. Like everything we do is going to use that route. And since as that route is running on a target we do have access to, if we are running a port scan using that route, we should be able to access the target, the firewall protected target. So I'm going to do run Autoroute, and I'm going to say I want to add the subnet that we do have this target into. So just before we do that, I'm just going to do ifconfig again, just so we can see that ifconfig, and you would see here this is the IP address and this is the subnet mask, and this subnet mask here tells us it is a /24 network. So I'm just going to do that again, run Autoroute, and I'm going to do S for adding the subnet, and the subnet I'm adding is 10.0.0.0/24. So that has been added. So if I do run Autoroute again and I list the routes that we have, you would see that our route has successfully been added. Okay, so once that is done, I'm going to put this in the background, and then I'm just going to clear the screen, and I'm going to search for the port scan module. That is port scan, and I'm going to use the TCP's port scan module, and I'm going to say use, and that is 5, and I'm going to do show options, and I'm going to set the R host to 10.0.0.206. This is the IP address of the target we do not have access to, and I'm going to hit I'm just going to specify the port. So I'm going to say set ports to, I'm just going to do that from 1 to 100 for the sake of simplicity, and I'm going to hit run. So just give this a couple of seconds. As you can see, we do have a reply here. So the scan has been completed, and we have a result here. It says on this target we do have something. We do have port 80 that is open. So now the next thing would be to identify what service is running on this target. So we do have an HTTP module that we can use to do that. However, for some reason that doesn't work. So what we would do is, since as we are aware that we have this port running, so we can try to see what we have running on port 80 by just accessing the IP address of this. So since we do not have access to that, we cannot just like type this into a browser. I'm just going to go into the system that, like the target that we've compromised. So I'm going to do sessions, and I'm going to do sessions 2. I'm going to do bin bash just to have a bash shell. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to curl what we have running on here. So if I do curl and I do 10.0.0.206 and hit enter, we now have a response here, and this is exactly what is running on that target. So just try and go through it and see if we could see anything that makes some sense, anything that can be of help to us. So we do have the head here. Okay, we have title redirecting. Okay, what else? Function. Okay, so it looks like we do not have anything relevant here. So I'm just going to try see if I can grep. So there's not much we can do, nothing of relevance here. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to see if I can curl only the header of the service running on port 80. So I'm going to do curl, and I'm going to do I'm going to add the I option, and I'm going to say 10.0.0.20. Oops, I'm going to do that is 10.0.0.206 and hit enter. So do we have something else? I'm just going through to see if we have anything that makes some sense here. Okay, let's just check our browser here. I'm going to go to DeepSeek, and I'm going to ask, how do I get the exact version of a service running on port 80 only via a Linux bash shell? Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, so it looks like we'd use uppercase I. Okay, let's try that. So I'm just going to do curl again, and I'm going to do uppercase I, and I'm going to do http colon http slash that is colon slash slash, and then 10.0.0.206. Okay, so now we do have a result here, and as you can see, it says the server is running something. We have bad blue here. We do not know what that is. And what else? Yeah, so we have called the header of what is running on that target, and we do have something that can be useful here. So we have bad blue 2.7. Okay, so I'm just going to put this in the background, and then I am going to do search bad blue. Okay, so we do have modules that can be used to exploit that service. So I'm just going to use, and the one we're going to use here is one. So I'm going to use one, and then I'm going to do show options, and then I'm going to do set our host to the IP address of our second target. So this is going to work because we have the route that has been set. So it's going to exploit this target that is at 10.0.0.206 going through the 25 target that we exploited. So I'm going to do that, and then what else do we have to set here? I think that should be it. And we do have this here, we do have this here. I'm just going to try running with the default with this listing import. Okay, I'm going to do set L port to something else, 4422 4432. I'm going to hit run. Okay, so as you can see now it worked. We do have a Meterpreter session, so we successfully compromise that target. So if we do something like sysinfo and hit enter, you can see this is now a Windows target. And if I put this in the background and do sessions, you can see we do have a second Meterpreter session here. This one says Windows, this one says Linux. Okay, that was it guys. Thank you. Bye bye.